I'm here in Geneva at the Patek Philippe Museum to meet John Reardon, Senior Vice President and Head of Watches at Sotheby's New York. And he's going to guide me through the intricate world of horology. My name's Tim Marlow. I've spent my career working with some of the most renowned visual artists in the world, but I'm no expert when it comes to the other collectible objects that make for a stylish life. For this series, I'll be learning from those unrivaled specialists at Sotheby's, and together we'll be taking a crash course through some of the most amazing collections in the world. John, there are quite a few watchmakers in Geneva, and there are other watch museums, but why specifically the Patek Philippe Museum?
Collectors worldwide believe that this is the holy ground for collectors everywhere. Patek Philippe is synonymous with the best and the finest watches ever made.
Aha, so we're not just going on a journey of discovery, this is a pilgrimage.
This is.
Great, let's go. John, where are we starting? Are we starting at the very beginning?
Most of these pieces are from the 1850s. The history of Patek Philippe dates back to 1839. When Antoine Norbert de Patek, a Polish nobleman, founded the company. And here we have a selection of those first-generation pieces, highlighted by a piece that was owned by Queen Victoria, a very young Queen Victoria, who chose this piece from Patek Philippe at the Crystal Palace exhibition in 1851. By catering to nobility, very quickly the word got out in Eastern Europe that this was the watch to have. You must own a Patek Philippe. And then soon, Queen Victoria, by owning one herself and by actually shopping for it, completely redefined the company's young history with this first celebrity endorsement.
It looks decorative, but of course it's phenomenally and fully functional, isn't it? That's the point, I suppose.
Yes, and this is the DNA of Patek Philippe. It's the aesthetic meeting the technical excellence of the movement. Now the case is this beautiful blue enamel highlighted by diamonds on a lapel pin. She would have wore this on her clothes to discreetly look at the time, which is on the opposite side of this watch.
Is it provenance mainly that gives watches, Patek Philippe watches, astronomical prices, or are there certain watches that, just because of their rarity and quality, make them the most sought after?
It really depends on who the watch was made for and what the watch contains for complications and for innovations. And it's also very important if a watch is first of a particular category, if it's the first world time, if it's the first perpetual calendar. With this particular piece, the fact that it had royal provenance brings it to a whole new level.
Another collection?
Yes, here we have a selection of watches that were made especially for Henry Graves Jr., who is the ultimate of all Patek Philippe collectors. Now, it is said that he was a competitor of James Ward Packard in the early 20th century to make the most complicated watch in the world. Henry Graves secretly commissioned an even more complicated watch from Patek Philippe in the 1920s. It was a piece that he paid approximately $15,000 for at that time. It was delivered to him in 1933, and today is considered the ultimate holy grail of all timepieces.
Where is it?
Today we don't know where it is, but I can tell you when it was last sold. It was sold at Sotheby's in 1999 for $11 million. And now this timepiece holds the record for the most expensive timepiece ever sold at auction. And this was the most complicated watch ever made in the world until the Calibre 89. It had 24 complications, including the time of sunrise, sunset, even had a celestial chart that showed the movement of the sky from standing in the center of Liberty Island, where the Statue of Liberty is.
John, I know because you told me that we're just going to the late 80s here, but this sort of could, to my eye, be any time throughout the period that you've taken me through the museum, almost. There's kind of reference to it. So there is that kind of timeless sensation, but tell me why this is very much of the late 80s.
This piece that we're looking at is called the Calibre 89, which is the most complicated watch in the world. On one side, you have a sky chart. The other side, you have, I won't list all the complications, but it's quite extraordinary. You have a split second. You have a retrograde calendar. You have mean time on one side. You have sidereal time on the other side. And the list goes on. Now, the history of this watch is interesting because go back into the 1970s, and modern day watchmaking was also almost decimated by the development of the quartz watch. All of the traditional watchmaking skills were almost overnight made obsolete. But Patek Philippe, what they did is they took in all of these craftsmen, watchmakers, case makers, enamelists, jewel setters, and put them under one house in order to develop the perfect ultimate watch. So in a way, as a reaction to the quartz revolution, Patek Philippe was made even stronger. And this watch is the ultimate expression of that.
John, time has sped up, but I've also felt out of time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a true pleasure. Thank you.